Hello friends, in this video we're going to discuss about the nuances of the new GST amnesty scheme which has been notified under section 128A with effect from 1st November 2024. So the rules which provide for the procedure along with the clarifications as to when it would be applicable through circular 238 have all been notified and clarified. So in this video, we're going to discuss about the nitty-gritties and the nuances of this particular amnesty scheme and when it would be applicable, along with the procedure that should be followed in order to avail the benefit of this scheme. So, first of all, this scheme requires the payment of the taxes, and the waiver is only in respect of interest and penalty. There is no waiver in the tax amount. So entire tax amount has to be paid, and it is in respect of non-evasion cases, that is section 73. So what are the conditions for availing this scheme? First is that it should be for the period 1718 to 1920. So beyond 2020, beyond 1920, that is in the year 2021 or any subsequent financial year, this particular scheme as of now has not been notified. Which are the notices which would be covered in this scheme? It would be covering all cases where the notice has been issued but the order is not issued, or the order is issued but the appeal order has not been issued, or the appeal order has been issued but the tribunal order has not been issued because the tribunal is not yet formed. So in any case, most of the scheme orders would be falling in this particular scenario. So we'll discuss about the nuances of which would be covered here. Now it needs to be remembered that one needs to make the payment of taxes within 31st March 2025. So as of now, the date notified is 31st March 25. Within this date, I need to make the payment of the full tax amount which is required under the scheme. Next, if there are cases where the notice has been issued under 74, but later on through the adjudication order or through the appeal order, it has been reclassified to 73 cases. In such cases, it would be recommended that the scheme would still be applicable, and the payment date would be 6 months from the issuance of order under 73. So it would be 6 months from the date of order under 73 and not 31st March 25, because it may be possible that I have got a notice today under 74. Later on, when I fight for this particular case, this gets transferred to 73 cases. So in such cases, the time limit is still allowable later on also. Now, whether we can make payment through cash or credit, answer is we need to make payment as required under the law. For example, for RCM, I can only make through cash. So for RCM, if the liability is there, I can still make payment only through the cash ledger. But for, let's say, a normal demand of payment of taxes, I can make payment through both cash or credit. In such cases also it would be allowed. As I said, interest and penalty would be waived. But if you have already paid the interest and penalty, no refund would be allowed for such amount. So if any amount has already been paid proportionately or the full amount for interest penalty, such amount would not be allowed as refund. Also, this is only for those cases which are for demand cases and not for refund cases. So if the refund was granted to me and now there is an erroneous refund which has been provided and the department is again raising a demand for it, it would not be covered here. Also, appeal or writ petitions would be withdrawn before filing for option under amnesty. So if, let's say, I've already filed an appeal or a writ petition before the higher courts or tribunal, in such cases, such appeals or writ petitions which have been filed needs to be withdrawn if I need to avail the benefit of this scheme. Also, once the payment has happened and the proceedings have been concluded after the passing of relevant order, no further appeal can be filed because the case would be deemed to be closed. Also, for 16.4 and cases which are now covered under 16.5 and 16.6 because of extension of the due date for availment of ITC for the relevant financial years, if the payment is not required anymore, even under this, there is no question of this amnesty scheme because the tax payment itself is not required, right? So if the tax itself is not required, there is no question of interest and penalty waiver because entire amount of tax, interest and penalty would be waived off. Now we are seeing those situations through which whether this scheme would cover or not. So we are seeing all the practical situations. Assuming the tax has been paid before DRC 01, that means before the show cause, during the stage of, let's say, scrutiny or the stage of intimation DRC 01A, I have already paid the tax amount. Now the DRC 01 thereby has been only issued for the interest and penalty. Whether this would be covered? Yes. So they are saying if for any reason in any proceedings, if the demand had been raised for tax amount even before the DRC 01 stage, if it has been paid, still the waiver would be applicable. Also, let's say tax, interest and penalty is payable as per DRC 01. Obviously, this is a plain vanilla case where in that case interest and penalty waiver would be allowed even if it is paid after DRC 01. Or if the adjudication is completed, order is already passed, in such cases, let's say I have already paid the taxes during the stage of adjudication before the order, and the DRC 07, which is the order, is only for interest penalty, whether the coverage is there, the answer is again a big yes. Next, whether if tax is paid as per DRC 07 but the appeal is filed only for interest penalty, in such cases also the coverage is there. Also, if the appeal has been filed for tax, interest and penalty, all three, and now I am paying the tax amount, then also the waiver would be applicable. Next, if the appeal order, that is APL 04, or the adjudication order is passed, but the appeal against that APL 04 or DRC 07 has not been filed, or the time limit has already lapsed for filing. Even if the time limit has lapsed for filing, still the coverage under 128A would be there. Next, if a writ petition or SLP has been filed before the Supreme Court or the High Court, in such cases with regard to notices and orders, the amount would be again subject to 128A, but we need to make sure that we are withdrawing the petition before making an application under this waiver section. So we need to withdraw this particular petition. If I am filing if I am already filed an appeal against the demand, then also I need to make sure that I am filing a withdrawal of that particular appeal before making the application of this scheme. If the notice and order is for 74 cases, that means evasion cases, would the scheme be applicable? No. But if it is redetermined under 73, then yes. Whether it is for erroneous refund, as discussed, it is a big no. Only for demand cases it would be applicable, not for erroneous refund. Now, there may be cases where the demand, notice and order is for both erroneous refund and for demand. So, the same notice and order is covering both refund and demand issue. In such cases, demand is covered but the refund is not covered. So, it has been mentioned that if I need to avail the benefit of this scheme, I need to make the full payment of my erroneous refund, including the tax, interest, penalty, and for the demand amount, I need to make the payment of the tax amount only. In such cases, waiver of interest and penalty would be allowed, and such payment needs to be made within 3 months of the date of amnesty order. So after the amnesty order is filed, is obtained, we'll see this, and we'll have a detailed discussion of what is amnesty order, what is the form, and all of that also we'll discuss in this video. Next, if the demand is for 2021 or later, in such cases also the benefit is not available under this scheme. Now, there may be some notices and orders which are covering both the periods of 1718 to 1920, which is the period covered under the scheme, or 2021, which is after the scheme. In such cases, I need to make full payment of the period of 2021 or later, and the tax payment would be only required for 1718 to 1920, which is the period covered. In such cases, interest and penalty would be waived for 1718 to 1920. Now, assuming I have already paid the interest and penalty also, partially, against an order, can I now adjust that interest and penalty against the outstanding demand by stating that I will pay the taxes lesser? Assuming my tax amount was 1 lakh, interest penalty also was 1 lakh each, so demand was 3 lakhs. I have already paid 40,000 each of tax, interest and penalty. Can I now say that I would for the 80,000 of interest and penalty which is paid should be adjusted against the tax demand of 1 lakh? The answer is no, it cannot be done. Next, only interest demand if it is prevalent, I mean there is no tax demand per se. So if there may be a notice where the tax demand is not there because the tax was already paid. Because let's say there was a late filing of return and in 3B it says the tax was paid, or late reporting of invoices. That means in my 1 I have reported my invoice late, and my 3B I have reported my invoices late. So in such cases, since the taxes have already been paid through 3B, there is no demand which was raised for the tax amount. Only the interest demand was raised. In such cases, the waiver would not be applicable. Also, can I take partial waiver on certain issues? Let's say there are 4 issues in the notice. Can I decide to take waiver of interest and penalty on 2 issues, and for the balance 2 issues I want to litigate? Is that permitted? Answer is no. Next, assuming an order was passed, I have already availed the benefit of amnesty scheme by paying the tax amount. Now the department decides to go against this order and departmental appeal. So this is already settled, this matter is already settled, but the department wants to enhance the demand. So in such cases, it has been said the amnesty scheme would only be valid if I have also paid the enhanced amount, that is the additional amount also I need to pay. Otherwise, the amnesty scheme availed for the original amount would also stand, would also be reinstated. So it is important that even if I have opted for the amnesty scheme, even if the order for the amnesty scheme has also been obtained in my favor, still if the department goes in appeal, the case does not get closed because I still need to make payment of the tax amount. Otherwise, the entire matter would get reinstated. As I said, if the notice was under 73 but the order of appellate authority or tribunal or court has reclassified it to 73 cases, then also the benefit is allowed and the time limit would be extended to 6 months from the date of redetermination under 73. Now, as I said, for demand under 16(4), but because my ITC was disallowable, but now it is allowable as per 16(5) or 16(6), then the tax demand also does not need to be paid. Next, demand involving transitional credit. In such cases, coverage is allowable under 128A if it is availed in 1718 to 1920. So transitional credit, the date when it enters the credit ledger is important. So assuming I had availed the transitional credit between 1718 to 1920, in such cases also I can get the benefit of 128A. Next, please remember that in case of import and IGST needs to be paid under Customs Act. In such cases, for this the benefit is not allowable because this is driven by Customs Act and not GST law. Next, if the penalty was determined under any section 73, 122, 125, subject to the condition that there was an original demand against that particular case under 73. In such cases, the coverage is allowed. But if the late fees, redemption fine or penalty was there under 129, that means there was no demand per se. Let's say detention case or confiscation case, there was no demand of taxes, but only the penalty amount or the fine amount or the late fees for filing of returns. In such cases, the benefit is not available. Next, what is the procedure for opting for this scheme? So, before opting for this scheme, I need to make sure that I make the full payment of taxes in DRC 03 by selecting the relevant order or the notice against which the demand is paid. So I need to attribute that payment against that particular notice. Assuming I had paid through normal DRC 03, in such cases what needs to be done, because it is not against any particular order but a general payment. In such cases, DRC 03 needs to be mandatorily attributed through DRC 03A against the outstanding demand. So against the outstanding demand, once that is attributed and the tax demand becomes zero, then only the next stage can happen. Now the time limit under which this can be done has been provided to be 31st March 25, or if the demand was redetermined from 74 to 73, then 6 months from the redetermination. Once this has been done, I need to apply for waiver of interest and penalty specifically in another form in SPL 01. SPL 01 is only for those cases where the notice is issued but the order is not issued under 73. This is only for those cases. Now SPL 02 is for those cases where the order is issued with evidence of withdrawal of appeal. That means order is issued and I need to make an application. I can only make an application subject to the condition that first, either I have not filed an appeal. If I have filed an appeal, in such cases I need to give an evidence that I have already made an application for withdrawing the appeal. Similarly, if the writ petition was filed, it would be subject to the application of the withdrawal of writ petition. Now, mind you, SPL 01 is for proper officer under 73. That means the adjudication officer. SPL 02 is for recovery officer. So I will be making application under SPL 02 to the recovery officer and not the adjudication officer, right? Once, let's say SPL 02 is filed and I have already filed an application for withdrawal of the appeal or writ petition, then in that case I need to follow up to make sure that I get an order that the appeal has been indeed admitted for withdrawal. And once I get this order, within 1 month itself, I have to file I have to submit this particular order for withdrawal before the relevant department. Next is SPL 03. So once I apply for the waiver, the department can issue a notice for rejection of the application and opportunity and also provide an opportunity for personal hearing within 3 months of receipt of application in SPL 01 or SPL 02. So department can, if it feels that my application was not proper and there is something which is further required to be complied or further tax demand is to be paid, it can give me a notice and also allow me an opportunity for personal hearing. This notice would be issued within 3 months of application. Next, once this notice has been issued, next process is that SPL 04, I need to file a reply within 1 month of the receipt of notice. So I need to file a reply within 1 month of the application, right? Thereafter, SPL 05 would be issued, wherein there would be a favorable order if the department feels that I am eligible for waiver and the reply is satisfactory, or in a case where they feel my application itself was proper, they would be issuing SPL 05. So once this happens, this time limit has been provided that if it is directly after my application without any show cause, in such cases it would be 3 months time limit wherein SPL 05 has to be issued. Otherwise, SPL 04 time limit is 3 months. If it is after the reply to my notice, if no reply is received, then within 4 months they will automatically issue SPL 05 if required. So it needs to be remembered that once this order is issued, if adjudication order was to be passed, it would no longer be passed. If the order was already issued, that means the adjudication order was issued, then they will modify the liability ledger and remove the interest and penalty amount. But if they want to reject my application, they will do it under SPL 07. So within 3 months of SPL 01 or SPL 02, they would be issuing this particular order if they are directly rejecting, or if the reply is received, in that case 3 months from SPL 04. If no reply is received, if they are rejecting, 4 months from the date of notice. So date of application to the date of withdrawal would not be counted. So if I have, let's say, made an application later on and I want to withdraw my appeal. So I have made a withdrawal application for appeal, but the order for withdrawal comes in later. So department will not be issuing SPL 05 or SPL 07 till the date I submit my withdrawal application. So that time period would not be counted. Now, if the department does not stick to this time limit, as has been mentioned, that my application would be deemed to be accepted. Next, if amnesty scheme up against SPL 07 is not filed, so if the appeal, so again I have an option that if the amnesty order has been issued against me, SPL 07, either I can go for appeal or I may not go for appeal. If I don't go for appeal, in that case, my earlier case, which was the appeal which I had withdrawn because I was going under amnesty, would be restored. So the time limit is 3 months from the date of order under SPL 07. My amount would, the entire thing would be restored. But if I go for an appeal, then APL 01 I would be filing like a normal case. Also, I need to make the relevant pre-deposit if relevant. So normally I would be making the full payment of taxes before making the application. If I've already made the full payment, there is no requirement of pre-deposit. But if I have not made the full payment and the order says that some more payment is required, in such cases I need to make a pre-deposit if it was lesser than the amount which is required for making the appeal. Right? Once again be 3 months, like in a normal case for filing appeal, it would be 3 months. Next, department, if it feels that the appeal which I have filed is correct and the order is passed in my favor and the amount is eligible to me under the amnesty scheme, in such cases SPL 06 would be given to the relevant assessee by the appellate authority, and the electronic liability ledger would be adjusted by reducing the demand because the amnesty is accepted. Now, if the appeal is rejected, in such cases I can go for further appeal, or if I don't go for further appeal, I may want to get my original appeal which was withdrawn. So original appeal was with regard to the merits of the case which I had filed earlier. That needs to be reinstated because that appeal has now been withdrawn when we had filed the amnesty application. So that amnesty application, if I want to restore that appeal, I need to file a undertaking that I don't want to appeal against the amnesty order and I want my original appeal which was rejected, the original appeal which I had withdrawn, to be restored. This also would be done within 3 months from the date of appeal order in APL 04. So APL 04 department would be rejecting my appeal. Now if department appeal order is passed later on, as I said, I have applied for the amnesty scheme, it has been accepted, everything is now completed, but department has gone into appeal against that particular case. And the department appeal has now been accepted by the relevant appellate authority. In such cases, it needs to be remembered that the amount which has been accepted by the appellate authority of the department appeal, I need to make the additional amount payment for that particular case. So let's say my demand was 1 lakh and I have already paid that 1 lakh rupees. Now it has been increased to 1,20,000. So balance 20,000 I still need to pay. If I'm not able to pay this balance 20,000, in that case my original amnesty scheme would be now cancelled and the entire case would now be started once again. So this is something which would be very interesting, because if my entire appeal gets cancelled, if my entire amnesty gets cancelled, and if I have not filed an appeal also in the earlier case, then what would be the scenario, given that department appeal order has already been passed, because my time limit for filing appeal against the original order is already gone. So we'll have to wait and watch as to how this would be done, right? So with this, I come to the end of this session. I thank everyone for giving me a very patient hearing.